One of the famous statues of Christ the Redeemer actually stands on the border between Chile and Argentina, high up in the Andes at about 14,000 feet. It was erected in the year 1904 after a border dispute had finally been settled between the two countries. And in Thanksgiving, they put this magnificent giant statue of Christ at a pass between the two nations. Well, once it was set in place, these of course were put in the newspapers in Argentina and Chile, and the Chilean people noticed that the statue was facing Argentina. And they all got upset. Why is the statue looking at Argentina instead of looking at Chile? So now there's a danger that the peace accord that had been signed was going to collapse. Well, interestingly enough, a journalist wrote an article in Chile, and he said this: the people of Argentina need more watching over than the Chilean people. So the Chileans began laughing about it, and they let it be. They let it go. Yes, maybe they did need looking after. Well, the gospel today speaks to us about that looking after, right? Corrections that we need. And if we don't get them when we're children, I'm afraid we grow up to be egotistical monsters, right? And maybe there's some evidence of that on the planet today. I don't know if you see it. But there's an extraordinary amount of disagreeableness today, which should be corrected when we're children. I remember had a rule that when we were disrespectful, we would have to write lines on a tablet. Now, for you young people, I want you to know a tablet is not an electronic device. Okay, this is an actual paper tablet. It has pages, and you would write script, something that unfortunately many children don't know. And I would have to write 100 times, I will not disrespect my mother. I will not disrespect my mother. 100 times. Now, some said later on, oh, that's abusive. Please. It's creative. You're learning to write, and you're having time. It takes a little while to write 100 times that sentence. You have time to think about what you've done. Time enough to have a change of heart. That's what this lesson is all about. It's about changing hearts. And we need to learn that lesson over and over and over again, even as adults. You know, one clever writer said, to dwell above with the saints we love, oh, that glory. But to dwell below with the saints we know, well, that's another story. We're all supposed to be the saints of God, but we get on each other's nerves, don't we? There's so many people that are angry. I hate this person. I hate that person. I hate the television. I hate this, all the things that we see. Now, friends, that's not of God. And we will answer for it. I don't want you to disagree with another human being. You cannot hate them. If you do, you will not enter into heaven. It's impossible. Hate will not get through the gates of paradise. So it's important that we deal today. You know, I don't know. Jesus may be coming in all of his divine glory on Labor Day. A labor of love. He might say, okay, time's up, folks. We're done. I've given you plenty of time to turn your hearts to me. Now I'm coming in the final judgment. And won't it be glorious to see him coming with all the angels and all the saints in the heavens? It will be glorious. But for those who have not repented, who have not converted, it's going to be a tragic day. Don't let yourself be numbered as a tragedy. Be numbered as of God. You heard it in the opening reading. We've been adopted. How did the adoption take place? It took a crucifixion and a resurrection to adopt us into the divine family through baptism. So are we living that baptismal grace, or are we holding on to resentments? Those who live in the resentment and the hate, well, our world is trying to deal with the symptoms, right, I mean, the hospitals are dealing with symptoms of people who make themselves sick or become sick. The police are dealing with the symptoms. The courts are dealing with the symptoms. The jails are dealing with the symptoms. The social workers are dealing with the symptoms. But who's dealing with the root cause? Well, that's supposed to be doing here in church. Jesus got to the root of it all, and it is he who calls us to let go of the resentments. The resentments don't hurt who you're mad at, by the way. They hurt you. It's like a dagger to your soul. So what's the remedy? The labor of love. You know, we've got Christmas Day, we've got Memorial Day, we've got Valentine's Day, we've got Labor Day. What we really need is Reconciliation Day. That could be today. When you call that brother or sister with whom you have not spoken because you had an argument in the settlement of the estate over grandma's rocking chair. People could lose their souls and not enter paradise over a rocking chair. Let it go. But it's not fair. She took it and... Guess what? The fairness has nothing to do with the final judgment. Only God is just. So call the relative today, because if Jesus comes in all of his glory tomorrow, you don't want to be stopped from entering paradise. You haven't made peace, right? You haven't made up. You haven't learned the lesson of the gospel today. Don't penalize yourself. Call them. You say, well, she's dead. She already died. Before the throne of God, at the altar of the Lord, or before a crucifix in your home, and say, in your name, Jesus, I forgive so-and-so for doing such and such. And then you will find peace that you've not had in years. You cannot take resentment into paradise, so get rid of it by the grace of Jesus Christ, with the greatest labor of love being reconciliation. Yesterday was the feast day of St. Teresa of Calcutta. We like to call her Mother Teresa. She said this: if you judge people, you have no time to love them. On her wall, she had a number of little statements, and one of them was, people can be unreasonable, forgive them anyway. And you say, well, okay, I wrote the letter, but my brother never wrote me back. The ball is in his court. You did what you needed to do to ask forgiveness or to forgive him. Now let it go. Place that soul at the foot of the cross, and it's all in the hands of the merciful Savior. You did your part. You made that labor of love a reality. And then the grace of God will reside in your heart forever.